Hey, it's Sam from Sugar Spun Run, and today I want to show you how to make my favorite peanut butter oatmeal cookies. If you love a good oatmeal cookie, you love a good peanut butter cookie, we're marrying them together for the best tasting, softest, most tender cookies ever. Let's go ahead and get started. This dough does require a little bit of chilling, so don't preheat your oven just yet. Today you may notice we have a little bit of a different scene behind us. We are finally down in my basement studio kitchen, and I am so excited. I did just share a video about that. Hopefully I actually shared it and didn't just film it and leave it on my phone. But anyway, let's go ahead and get started. Today's recipe uses a slightly unusual amount of butter. We're going to be using 10 tablespoons of softened, unsalted butter. I know it seems funny. It's not just half a cup, it's not a whole cup, but 10 tablespoons turned out to be just the right amount to give us the perfect ratios for the best tasting cookies. For those of you using a scale, you want 141 grams of butter. Next, let's talk about sugar. This is 2/3 cup or 135 grams of brown sugar. You can use all light brown sugar if you'd like, but personally, I really like to do a blend of light and dark. You don't have to run out to the grocery store if you don't have both on hand, just use whatever you do have. But this blend works really nicely. Dark brown sugar is going to bring out some richness, while the light brown sugar keeps it from being too rich, but you're still getting some of that subtle molasses flavor. Make sure you firmly pack that into your measuring cup. Next is the granulated sugar. We do need a bit of that still. This is 1/4 cup or 50 grams of granulated sugar. And this recipe does double well for those of you who are wondering. This recipe is going to make about 19 cookies. If you want a lot of them, just double it, no problem, no need to make any fancy changes. Now you can absolutely use your stand mixer with a paddle attachment to make this recipe if you have one. Today I am just going to be using my electric hand mixer. We're going to cream together the butter and sugar until they are light and fluffy. All right, once your butter and sugar are well combined, this is like creamy and well combined, we're going to add our peanut butter. This is a 1/2 cup or 140 grams of peanut butter. I'm using a creamy peanut butter, but crunchy would be totally fine if you like a little bit of extra texture. I have not tried this recipe yet with my homemade peanut butter or with a natural peanut butter. Those do not always give you the same results as like the brand name, like, Jif or Skippy are going to give you. Those less natural peanut butters, I'm not sure what you want to call them, more conventional, they have oils and other things added that actually work pretty well in the cookies. My fear is that if we use a natural peanut butter, the cookies could end up more dry and crumbly. So that's just something to keep in mind if you are interested in experimenting. Get all that peanut butter in there, we don't want to waste any. Let's stir in the peanut butter. Okay, beautiful. Anytime you're baking or mixing anything in a mixing bowl, including if you're making it in a stand mixer, actually, especially if you're making it with a stand mixer, pause periodically to scrape the sides and bottom of the bowl, just because it is important that all of your ingredients are getting well combined, especially once we get to adding our dry ingredients. This looks pretty good. So let's add our egg. You need 1 large egg for today's recipe. Ideally, this should be room temperature. I'm just gonna crack it in my peanut butter bowl. That way, if we drop any shell or happen to have a bad egg, we didn't just waste the rest of our dough. I've only ever cracked a rotten egg like once in my life, but once is enough. That is an experience you never forget. It's terrible. Add the egg. Let's also add our vanilla extract. You need 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract for today's recipe. Oops. Okay, a generous teaspoon. That'll be fine. Stir everything together again. All right, quick scrape. Everything should be smelling pretty amazing about now. And let's slide this out of the way. Whoa, try not to lose my whisk. And you need a separate bowl for your dry ingredients. Not too much flour for today's recipe, just 1 cup or 125 grams. We are going to be adding some oats, and that's going to help hold our cookies together a lot. You don't need a ton of flour for this recipe. Now I do also like to add a teaspoon of cornstarch. Cornstarch, one of my favorite secret ingredients for cookies. If you don't have cornstarch, if you can't use cornstarch for whatever reason, you can leave it out and swap it with an equal amount of flour. But if you can use cornstarch, do it. It helps make the cookies more tender and more chewy, whereas if you left it out, they just are a little bit more cakey. So it's one of my favorite, I call it a secret ingredient, but it just adds a little extra something. For our leavening agents, just baking soda today, no baking powder. It's 3/4 teaspoon of baking soda, and we're also just going to be doing 3/4 teaspoon of salt. It's just a table salt, fine sea salt would also be fine. So whisk these ingredients together. You want those leavening agents and that salt nicely distributed. Just works better when we go to add it to our wet ingredients, which let's bring those back. Didn't forget about the oats. We'll get to those in a second. Not too many dry ingredients today. I usually caution you to add them gradually, like in 3 parts. Today, it's few enough, little enough, few enough? That's not right. It's a small enough amount of dry ingredients that we can just add them in all at once. And I'm going to switch over to my mixer. You could do this by hand, but we have the mixer. It won't hurt to use it. So we'll just mix everything together on low speed until everything is combined. Okay, and now we can add our oats. So I recommend using quick cooking oats for this recipe. It's going to give you a better texture. This is just 1 cup of oats, that is 115 grams. We'll add these. I'll give it a quick stir with the hand mixer. And then I'm going to switch over to my spatula. We have a little bit of that flour hiding on the edges. Let's get that worked in. All right, this is a soft dough and it does necessitate a brief stint in the refrigerator. It needs to chill for at least 30 minutes, though you could also make the dough, a day in advance, bake it the next day, that would be fine. We're going to cover this with plastic wrap and we'll pull it back out in 30 minutes. In the meantime, I'm going to preheat my oven to 375 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 190 degrees Celsius. Okay, it's been 30 minutes, so let's start baking some of this cookie dough. I am going to be using my 1.5 tablespoon scoop. I love this scoop, but I'm going to be scooping about 2 tablespoons of dough. So a heaping one of these scoops, and if you're weighing your cookie dough, that's about 38 grams. Now you could just drop your cookies right on the baking sheet. That's fine, we'll bake up a little bit wonky around the edges. But if you're particular like I am and want rounder cookies, just quickly, briefly roll the dough between your palms to make it nice and round. Ta-da! Now when you're placing your cookies on the baking sheet, you're going to want to space them at least 2 inches apart. They are going to spread a bit in the oven. Now we're going to bake these in the center rack. Ideally, my new oven doesn't actually have a center rack, so this is going to be interesting. But whenever I test my recipes, I bake them on the center rack. So do that. And these typically need to bake for about 10 minutes. The very edges should be turning a very light golden brown when they're finished baking. All right, this is actually a great learning experience. That oven, I haven't actually put my thermometer in it yet. I haven't been doing my testing down here. I do it upstairs. These cookies came out a little more gold than is ideal. Because of this, they're going to be a little bit more dry. They're not going to be as soft and chewy. You can just see like the golden browning on top. I just want light golden browning around the side. This will be my test batch. Next time I know I'm going to shave a minute, maybe even 2 off of the bake time. But when you get a cookie that comes out of the oven like this, instead of cooling it completely on the baking sheet, we can go ahead and carefully move this, and I'm going to transfer it to a cooling rack right away. Be careful because the cookies can be fragile when they're warm, even if they're slightly overbaked, but this is going to stop the baking process. What I typically like to see is a slightly underbaked cookie that I let cool completely on the baking sheet. That way it finishes baking there and they stay soft and chewy for days. Next round of cookies, we'll just bake a little less. All right, these look better, but my oven still needs a little bit of watching closely. That's one of the biggest ways you can go wrong, and I'm actually kind of mad at myself for not thinking about this sooner. I was just so excited about my new kitchen. Always check the temperature of your oven. Make sure it's cooking true to temperature. Mine could also have to do with this fact it's a smaller oven, but use your first batch as a guide on how to adjust your subsequent batches. I'm going to move these over to my cooling rack. And we'll let the cookies cool before we dig in. Another way you can tell if your cookies are overdone, flip them over. That's a little bit too gold, too dark. It's still going to be tasty, but do yourself a favor. You want light colored bottoms. I could even go lighter than this. And that is how you make my favorite peanut butter oatmeal cookies. Thank you so much for joining me today in my new kitchen. I can't wait to share more recipes with you. Thank you again, and I will see you next time. My favorite part of the day. That is excellent. Take a look at that. Amazing. It's a great cookie. Kid dressed himself, bow tie. He wanted suspenders, but they didn't fit. Or they didn't really work with the sweatpants either. What do you think of the new space?
Good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Thanks.
It's nice.
Like, I'm just waiting for you to tell me you're good.
Oh, that's me? Oh, I was just like, oh, I wonder what she's doing.
I guess I probably didn't say that out loud.